August, OLUG meeting, 2010. Dink, dink. Whoa! My highly technical.
It is. Highly technical Ustreamcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Very nice.
I wonder if that's...
Yeah, volume's okay, I think. Touch up.
Woo!
Yeah.
I can move it a little bit closer.
Sweet. Okay.
Well, yeah, Andy's going to do a presentation on JQuery, everybody. Andrew, I'm sorry.
Oh, whichever way you slice it. So my first day of college, I told my then-to-be roommates, it was like, anything but Andy. So, of course, Andy for the next 4 years.
Boy, that was a
yeah, that was really, man, I was naive.
And I did it without
yes.
even knowing.
So my name is Andy Wirick. Stuff, you know, you probably use that in Twitter and find out ridiculous things about me if you wanted to. I do run I manage a blog called enterprisejquery.com. I work for a company called Append2, which is our neat little logo there. The jQuery company is the name that's actually, we're special because we actually get that name. We're the only company that can use that brand because it's owned by one individual and he can tell us that we can't use it if he wants to. So, who's heard jQuery before? Who has even heard the name? Has any foggiest clue of what it is? Okay.
I've heard the name.
Has to do with Java.
Script.
Close.
You were so close.
I was
Cool,
script
excellent. So we're going to keep this presentation pretty brief, very high level obviously, just to let you know what jQuery is, how it functions, and what it means to you. So actually I was thinking about that. Okay, I'm coming to a Linux users group and we're going to talk about a JavaScript library. So why would you guys find that even remotely interesting? This is a graph of the top 10,000, top 100,000, and top million sites by unique hits. And this little line shows usage of all of those websites of jQuery. We'll talk about what jQuery is, but what this is showing us is that now jQuery is used by 34% of the top 10,000 sites by unique hits. Facebook counts as 1. It doesn't count as 10,000. Otherwise, it would be.
It'd show up in a torrent somewhere.
It's by domain, but this shows since November of 2008, when jQuery was about 5% to now, we're at 35%, and as we go down the list, we're at about 24% of the top 100,000 websites of usage. So jQuery as a library is pretty much ubiquitous in the web today. Browser manufacturers are actually considering adding the library directly into the browser code itself, so that the API won't even have to be linked. It's simply there. Yeah, and it would be game over amongst the libraries. So what jQuery really is, it's really simple. jQuery is simply a JavaScript library that performs a few things for you. So it's initially designed around the web. It doesn't actually have to be used in websites. It can be used anywhere you use JavaScript in general. We'll talk about that in a second. But web development circa 2005. People were starting to get very tired of static websites. Web 2.0 was starting to become apparent, and Flash was everywhere. But people wanted to come up with standardized ways of displaying things on websites. Flash, obviously, you needed a third-party plugin to utilize. But writing anything in JavaScript, so JavaScript is the one, there's three languages essentially, if you want to consider them languages, that you can use to compose a web page that any client browser will have. HTML, CSS, which isn't really a language, but whatever, and JavaScript. So those are your choices. That's all you have to work with. Well, HTML and CSS have been used for a long, long time to create websites. They're all static for a long while. And JavaScript, for a long time, was used very sporadically and was kind of considered the bastard child of the web. The language was considered a joke. The name itself, JavaScript, came from Netscape in the mid-90s because they wanted They wanted to cash in on the popularity of Java. It has nothing to do with Java. Nothing whatsoever. Technically, the language is actually called ECMAScript, the standard for the language.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, ECMA script. So yeah, if you ever look for the JavaScript standard, there isn't one. JavaScript is just the coined name that Netscape used in the mid-90s for the language because, again, it sounds like Java. Let's throw a script on the end, and we've got JavaScript. They did that little jig I just did as
we
well.
Get that on video?
Yeah. No, wait,
All
did we?
around the world.
Yeah, it was in a sideways view, but they did get the jig. So 2005, browsers are starting to create JavaScript engines that are actually fairly powerful and getting faster and faster. The problem is they all took the standard document and were like, well, we kind of don't want to implement that, and we don't think that's necessary, so we're not going to use that either. And we're going to implement that a little bit differently than the standard said. So for every different browser, you had completely different functionality. So if you're a web developer in 2005, you're trying to develop a website, trying to make it rich at all, it was awful, an awful experience. Every single browser you'd have to write custom code for, essentially. So you're handling all the browsers with different code. The other problem was it was really hard to do very, very simple things. Like I want to get all of the table cell elements on a web page. And it sounds easy, was not easy in JavaScript at the time. So jQuery set out to solve those two problems in particular. They wanted to create a library you could use so that you don't have to worry about what browser the client's using, and you can get at stuff in a web page very, very easily. So what you see as rich internet applications today that is not using Flash, chances are they're using one of a few JavaScript libraries to do most of the work. They obviously write code, they write JavaScript, but they're utilizing the library to take away those pain points of trying to grab elements in a certain fashion and trying to deal with different browser issues. So to give you a little example, so this is actually enterprisejQuery.com, so I figured I'd use an example that we actually wrote. What's really interesting about this web page is anywhere we actually have a jQuery method, a jQuery function on the page, and we're talking about that function, we actually wrote a little bit of jQuery that goes out there and finds any of those via regular expression and links to the API site automatically. So it's not like we sat in HTML and created anchor tags by default. We actually use JavaScript to do all of that on the fly. So this was actually dynamically created with JavaScript. The ability to, that link itself was dynamically created with JavaScript using jQuery to do it. That's not all that exciting. We'll get to more exciting.
Well, that
things.
allows you to freeform what you're writing, isn't it? Because it's filtering out that part in the publishing portion.
It's
Maybe I'm not.
so what's happening here is HTML page comes down.
Sure.
Okay, you've got all sorts of different things in there. If you look at an HTML document, you've got CSS links. So it goes out, gets the CSS link. It's getting images and loading them for you. And it's also got script tags in there. So it grabs that JavaScript and immediately executes it as soon as it gets it. What we actually do, and jQuery makes it very easy to wait until the document's completely ready to make sure that's when your function executes. So when the document's completely ready, we essentially go through, and via regex, we look for any methods, any jQuery methods that might be on the page, and in JavaScript, wrap that in an anchor tag, wrap that in a link, and point it to the correct location. And we do all of that with jQuery in just a couple of lines. I'll show you what that code looks like, just for nerd's sake. I don't expect anybody to understand it completely, but it's still kind of just interesting. So we'll go through this very quickly. The project's composed of 4 parts. We have a completely separate UI portion to the project, so we'll take a look at some of those fancy widgets, because that's where a lot of the cool stuff hides. And we also have a completely separate unit testing library that you can use in JavaScript. You don't have to use jQuery to do that. There's lots of different sites. So it's funny, and you guys probably know, what nerds are really good at is doing their jobs, and a lot of times when you're dealing with computer programming nerds, they're really good at programming, but they really suck at documenting. What jQuery has done really, really well from the start is document, 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 everything that's going on, and that's one of the reasons of the success of the library. There's other libraries out there that do similar things, but had to do a lot of catch up with documentation. This is all blah, blah, blah. Let's show some real stuff. As you can tell, I'm not exactly a fan of slides. So,
You show a lot of them fast, though.
yeah, do you like that? Boom, done.
My
Check,
favorite way,
scene.
yeah.
So let's look at a couple of things, actually. Let's take a look at the UI site. Let's look at some more richer stuff for jQuery than just what I've showed you. So what jQuery allows us to do is a lot of things very, very simply. So if you have a form on a web page and you have a date involved, it's awful to make somebody type that in for the most part. And people are very bad at typing in dates. But if you give them a UI control to make that selection, it's a lot easier. And there's a lot of things going on there, right? There's a little bit of animation happening there, right? Just a little bit of fade in, fade out going on. It's drawing that whole thing for you.
And you guarantee you can almost guarantee you're going to get it in the right format.
Yes. It's also accessibility standardized. So if somebody has a screen reader, there's a lot to that you don't think about when you go into a web. Oh yeah, I could probably draw a calendar image, and there's all those links in there. There's a lot to that control, that widget. The widget itself is part of jQuery UI. It was built with jQuery core and built up with it. And to use that widget, let's show the code. Let's see here.
View source.
Yeah, there's the button. So to use that widget, this was how much code was added to the whole page. That's it.
Even I can do that.
Yeah, and actually,
I'm thinking the same thing.
yeah.
But you're doing it as a.
Let me zoom in.
You're defining the library
Ooh.
ahead of time. Though,
So
in
yes,
the top
so
of the-
so yeah, there's a few. What's really nice is all you really have to do to get this functionality as part of a web page is add a script tag for jQuery core and add a script tag for jQuery UI in this case. That's it.
Okay.
You've got it all. That will run. You've got to add it first. Browsers will run things in the order they are in the HTML document. And past that, you've got this functionality ready to go. There's a little bit of magic going on here, but basically this is saying whenever the document's ready, so once you've got all your DOM elements down and they're all kind of built, and you've built this whole DOM tree that's going to be your HTML page, this is actually could be read as find the DOM element with the identifier of date picker, and .date picker is just adding all that functionality you saw. This is the key. This is the one of the two original key parts of jQuery. Finding elements by ID was easy, but finding elements, as I spoke of before, by type or by specific things was not necessarily. Let's see if I can come up with an even cooler example. I'm going to pull up random examples and see. That will be fun. JavaScript's come a long way recently. I don't get anything. So if we look at the very bottom of this page, I'm going to make this grow some more. This is the magic piece of jQuery right here. The top part is actually that plugin I talked about on our enterprise site, and I'll show you how it works. But this is really magical. This is just saying, give me every paragraph tag on the page. I could say, give me every list tag on the page. I could say, give me every element with a class name of my class on the page. I could say, give me every element of my class on the page, and also every li element. Actually, what we're using here is, there's tons of selector syntax, and it's all documented in the API, but it makes it incredibly easy to grab whatever you want off your web page and then do something with whatever you've grabbed. In this case, I wrote a little plugin that does the actual grab all paragraph tags, and I called it API Linkify because that's what I'm doing. And my whole web page is just, so this is a standard HTML document. Here's a body tag, and here's 2 paragraph tags. So it's going to grab both of those, look for an API call. .append to is an API method. That's where the company name I work for comes from. And when I preview, there it is, and I can click through to it. and there's my
That's cool.
data pen too. So it's essentially, what this also kind of shows actually is I can completely extend the library. I can put this in my own JS file, my own JavaScript file. Somebody can link to it. They just call .api linkify. Boom, they're done. So the API is completely extendable via plugins. There's, I think right now in the plugin repository, there's some 6,000 plugins available for jQuery.
That's a good amount.
It's yeah, not all of them are good. There's some kind of yeah. My favorite is IE6 die plugin. So if somebody tries to load the page with IE, there's a way to crash the browser in JavaScript, but only in IE6. So that's called .IE6 die. So you can add that to your page, and
I like it.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. IE sucks.
So-
Did you use Firefox?
So we have
Doesn't
just
even tell
yeah.
you that.
Doesn't even tell you. It just kills you.
Keep going back to the page.
So there's a lot of magic going on here, and I don't want to really get into JavaScript, the language. The language is a dynamic. I guess I can speak a couple things about the language. It's a dynamic language, meaning that exactly what it means. Not static language. It is not a classical language. It is what is called prototypal or prototypal language, and what that means is objects do not have a class assigned to them at all. You can link to a different object through a mechanism called prototyping. So you can kind of sort of pseudo-inherit, but it's not really inheritance. Objects, everything in JavaScript is an object, including functions. So you can pass around functions into methods just like you would normal parameters. It's a very, very, very powerful language. And like most very, very powerful languages, it's often misunderstood, bastardized, and gets a lot of people into trouble because you can do almost anything with it. When you can do almost anything, that means you can do really, really stupid, dumb, bad things. There's some really bad things you can do with it. Like, this is one I always like to do to people's web pages just to screw them up. There's a parameter called there's a global variable called undefined, and it's supposed to mean that it's undefined, right? So it's always available. It's a variable. It's just called undefined, but I can define it. So now undefined is defined. So a lot that can turn true false statements backwards and upside down and sideways and completely blow up people's code. But it's powerful. I
Now, is that because
I
you're
can
putting
define
it as-
undefined in JavaScript. That's how powerful the language is.
Existential.
Yes, it is.
Is that
You're
verse?
still-
I mean,
Isn't that ridiculous?
because it's a
Isn't it
string versus
ridiculous?
a numeric value. Is that?
It doesn't matter. I'm defining undefined.
Anyway, it'll
I'm
screw it
hosing them
up.
anyway. I slice
Okay,
it.
all right.
Maybe if I pass 0, they might be okay, but usually not even then.
Okay.
It's really bad. Like, that's almost a mistake in the language, but they kept it really, really free and open. Which is why, I mean, the mid-90s, when JavaScript, when ECMAScript standard, the first standard came out, and the first, Netscape JavaScript implementation came out, people were just like, what is this language? And I mean, if you look at the syntax, too, it looks nuts. Like, I got, here's the Perl, this isn't terrible, because I've got regexes and $signs, but if you're not,
Well, it's old.
what is happening?
Dreamweaver 3, you say, okay, make the site, and you had these huge JavaScript includes on every single page, and like,
Right.
what the heck's
Right.
going on?
Yeah.
Yep, but it's actually it's an incredible language. It's exciting to use. It's incredibly because it's so powerful. I come up from a Microsoft background.
Sorry.
I've left there though.
Hey.
Obviously,
he's the
I found the
bad guy,
door.
he's
I
the
found the
bad.
door and I pushed through.
Look at the light. It's
Yes.
the train.
But anytime I go back to a classical language after this, like Java or C#, I can't do it. I'm like, I can't just augment this object, and I can't do all these things I can do in JavaScript. It's tough for me personally. But let's show you some other cool stuff, and then I'm just going to take random Q&A, and I want to know what's important to you guys to show. I can show a lot of different stuff. I mean, there's the interactions that are available in terms of jQuery UI are incredible. I mean, doing something like being able to have a canvas that you could drag things around in is, this is just me with the mouse dragging something around on an area, and having that draggable element contained. I mean, this stuff was pie in the sky 2005, and this is not Flash. This is just this works in every browser. This works in IE6. This isn't HTML5 either. If you guys have heard of HTML5, this This is just all through JavaScript, and it's utilizing jQuery to make sure that it works on all the different browsers. There's a lot of cool stuff. Displaying dialogues to the user was something that, just people was incredibly difficult. And that's a one-line code piece now. So it's really opened up web development for folks. It is just a JavaScript library, which means it can actually be used server-side as well. And it is sometimes. There's actually an open source project to create a server-side web server in only JavaScript. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It works.
If it's small enough, you could put all those little cube things.
Yes, that's the thing. They want to make it tiny. They want to make it functional. They want to make it tiny. But you could use jQuery on that side too. If you have a document, one of the other things that's actually cool. You can use jQuery with XML. So XML is really good at parsing tags and IDs and attributes, which are all in XML documents. So you can have jQuery and use it against XML and actually parse XML documentation. So I haven't used XPath since I found jQuery ever again. Never.
Suppose there's probably an open office plugin.
Yeah, that would be
Since it's all
so
XML.
sweet. You gotta, it's, yeah.
You're the big. You like that, wouldn't you, Craig?
So,
I need some
You
alone
know,
time.
yeah, this is all the fancy stuff because this is all, this is all in jQuery UI, but the foundations for this in jQuery core are really, really important. I mean, if nothing else, when you go in any site that's using jQuery and you're filling out a form, if they're using it correctly, it should be making your life a lot easier than it used to be to fill out that form and giving you constant feedback, letting you know if your form's validated correctly, if you filled out things the way you should have, etc. Wow, it is already 7. That's the team. So the team's actually quite large for an open source team in terms of the official team. At this point, the project is open source, but it is, from a commit standpoint, it's managed by a few people, obviously. The project is used so ubiquitously that if you went in and you tried to commit to jQuery, they'd tell you you're crazy. If you got a good idea, though, you can certainly discuss it with them and commit it. But it's from people all over the world that are very, very intelligent, and obviously. So what does it have to do with Linux? Not a terrible amount. It's completely ubiquitous, right? It doesn't matter what operating system I'm on here, right? Every browser has a JavaScript engine, and whether or not I'm using Linux is completely unimportant, which is one of the reasons this is so powerful. It's browser independent, it's OS independent, it allows me to be browser independent and OS independent in my own development and not be concerned with any of those things.
Well, there's a lot of mobile devices are Linux based. Like
Yes,
Android.
so mobile.
I wouldn't know what those are all about. They move around.
So mobile, yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of mobile devices are actually already supported by jQuery. So if somebody has a website, obviously the Android and iPhone devices are completely supported already. Most Blackberries are. The problem is, and I was talking to John about this, we don't even know. There's no good research out there that's public that shows what browsers people are using on what phones. So we can kind of guesstimate what phones people are using, but those phones can have different browsers. There's restricted versions on those phones in terms of you have carriers releasing the versions of software to their consumers, which is in and of itself makes things very slow to update. Some people are using really, really awful browsers. So trying to support the entire mobile space is
I know
terrible.
Windows Mobile.
If-
Not necessarily Windows Mobile.
Actually, the new Windows mobile browser is completely supported.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we already went through everything with IE6 with jQuery. It's all the same crap. Like, oh, that bug's still there. We already fixed it. No, it's actually not terrible. But it's actually completely supported. Opera Mini's the terrible one. Opera Mini's the real, but it's impossible to support quite literally because it's not even a web browser.
Did you know that?
No.
It's not a web browser, it's a proxy. So they have servers, Opera does, that'll render the HTML for you and send you what amounts to a glorified image file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that and fast.
That's why they tout it. It's just, and it works on anything.
That's why they
that
can kind of
view
iterate it.
images.
It's just like, oh, well, we can fix that bug on the server and look
So,
at all the devices. So they're seeing all your traffic.
Well,
Then your face just changed.
Yes. Oh yeah, they have complete oversight of what you're trying to view too. For them, it's just a big win because everything's routed through them.
Now I don't know if they
Mini, Opera Mini.
Opera Mini, not Opera.
Yeah.
There's Opera Mobile, and there's
Just-
Opera Mini.
I'm just verifying. Because
So, does anybody have any questions? Web in general. This is kind of my
It's uninstalled.
this is my life. This is what I do. So, if you have any general web questions, I wanted to keep it fairly short and just kind of give you a overview of what jQuery was, because I know it's very specific to Linux.
Would you say that jQuery is a framework like CodeIgniter is a framework, or is it more of a? See, I've never messed with CodeIgniter, but I'm trying to understand like how it's different from one to the other. I know some developers who use CodeIgniter and they're like, oh, that's great. But
So, jQuery kind of skirts this. It's hard to tell when a library becomes a framework and when what is what. I mean, it's so gray area. You use jQuery as you would a framework. You leverage it to do everything you do. You style your development against the library. So you really do use it like a framework.
but it's more like a toolkit that you're using.
Yes,
In terms
but it doesn't restrict you in any way, shape, or form. You have
Okay.
free reign to use all the JavaScript you ever want to do. So it's completely non-restrictive. So in that sense, it is just the library. It's a tool you're using to get the job done faster, quicker, more efficiently, cross-browser compatibly. And that's really the key of the whole tool. And that's why the ideas were so simple and so well executed, and that's why it's so ubiquitous. I mean, it is one of the most used libraries in the world. Well, it's one of the most downloaded libraries in the world, obviously.
Mm.
You can just tell by the top 10,000 websites that it's up there with like the kernel assemblies on Windows in terms of usage at this point.
Wow.
So it's huge. It's massive. And there's a lot of it's still new. I mean, you saw that graph, January 08. It was 5% market penetration. Not January, November 08. I'm sorry. So
That's pretty good. It's almost 2 years.
yeah, a year and 3 quarters, it's gone from that to 35% of the internet. When the internet is the market, that's a big market.
Yeah, it's a few thousand people.
How does jQuery relate to something like Ajax?
Good question. So let's check this out. Come
'Cause,
on.
A lot of people say Ajax is a buzzword, or
It is. People throw it out without knowing what it means.
yeah.
Very, very often. So Ajax actually initially was an acronym for asynchronous JavaScript over XML. Essentially, what Ajax was instead of using HTTP as a mechanism to retrieve entire web pages and view them all at one time and letting the browser render the entire web page each time. So every time you made any request, that request went to the server. The server sends back an HTML page with all the CSS and JavaScript. The whole thing has to re-render, even if they wanted to change like one word. Whole thing re-renders. Well, why do that? It would be a lot more efficient instead if I utilize JavaScript, which every browser has, make the call to the server in JavaScript asynchronously, so give it a callback function to run whenever that request is done. And when the request is done, take that and insert it into the DOM myself. So instead of the server sending back an entire HTML page, it just sends back a tiny snippet. In my example, one word.
Well, it's
as a
certainly more
string.
efficient in the terms of bandwidth.
Right.
And
So that's Ajax. So Ajax is very high level, just a technology. It's not even a technology. It's utilizing all the technologies we had available in a certain fashion to do things more efficiently on the web. XML is actually not even the most popular mechanism for passing data anymore. A lot of HTML snippets get passed and just immediately thrown in.
Interesting.
jQuery makes it trivially easy to do that. You can just throw an HTML string at it, and it'll build all the DOM elements for you on the fly and insert them into the DOM in one line. And I actually have tons of examples of that, but we don't need to look at them. It's truly easy to do with jQuery. So Ajax is a mechanism. Now, Ajax on different web browsers was a total and complete nightmare. And if we look at the jQuery source code, which is completely public, it's an open source project, we can look at the jQuery source code, and we can look at it, something like Ajax, and it's actually the biggest section by number of lines by far in the entire library. It's actually pretty big. This doesn't look that big. This is big for a library that's had five years of revisions and optimizations, and it just kind of keeps going. That's big. In the JavaScript world, big is in kilobytes, because when people think you've all this bandwidth, but I mean, 30 versus 100K is a big deal when you're serving up 1 billion requests for a library.
Yeah. Well,
when you multiply things by 1 billion, KBs start mattering.
And you go back to the whole mobile realm again. You know, developing for mobile is like developing for mainframes.
Mm-hmm.
You have limited memory and limited space.
Mm-hmm.
You need to
Right,
work
absolutely.
in that frame of mind again.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a lot of contests coming up right now that aren't jQuery specific, but JavaScript specific, saying develop an entire web application. The whole thing, everything that gets downloaded to the client has to be 10K or less. All of it. Images, script, CSS, HTML. 10K. That's what you get.
Wow.
And it's got to be cool. And people are doing it. There's the entire we're going in that direction in terms of web development, which is great. The entire enterprise jQuery site is 85 kilobytes. None of what you see here is images. None of that. Nothing. These are the images. These are images.
Are they defining the font for that?
This is a tiny little image. Yeah, all the fonts are defined in CSS. Everything is defined in CSS. So we're going back to taking the technologies that we're giving to make websites and being really good at them, rather than, Microsoft really pushed in the early 2000s with ASP.NET Web Forms, taking the technology and shoving it through, this square peg round hole methodology, where you're passing 5 megabytes of essentially view state, which is taking a stateless protocol and making it stateful, and you're just it was very square peg and a round hole, and now we're getting back to let's just use the technologies given to us and just use them really well. Yeah, so it's great. I mean, this entire site is tiny. The text is half the text is almost a good bit of the actual content, which is good. If your HTML document's a significant amount of what you're getting, that's good. But it's certainly is interesting what's going on. Oh, we can run some of these. Cool. Yeah, so like this is me creating an anchor tag on the fly. It's a gist. Let's run it. Run. These are just little snippets we have. So like this was created on the fly. Animations aren't very happy at this video thing. But yeah, it's incredible. It's really interesting stuff. I don't want to bore you guys too much because I know this is kind of at the edge of your realm, but I think it's something just to keep your eyes on because it's.
Well, we'll have to be supporting some people who will be using it, and they may have questions about things. And
yeah. So browser-wise, so in mobile environments, Opera Mini will not be supported. I can tell you that. There's a lot.
Friends don't let friends use Opera Mini.
There's a lot going on
I think
in
there's
the.
certain little hostility going on there.
There's a lot going on in the mobile space right now. So this is kind of the other project that's shown up. They're already trying to put together a conference. They don't even have a library yet.
Does that mean they're a marketing company? $400 early bird discount?
No, that means that they got like $10 million from Sequoia Capital, and Sequoia told them they need to hold a conference.
Wow.
And so they said, "Yes, sir." No, they actually, I don't. They got some capital, and that's great. what that shows is that there's a lot of interest in creating, going the next step with these JavaScript libraries. We don't need to just support these, we need to support all these different devices in a way that makes sense. And there's a lot of problems there if you think about it. Like on your traditional machine, you have a mouse, so we can detect when you hover over something, right? We can show cool tooltips. I found this cool plugin the other day, just the other day. Yeah, that was
Something that could show you a specially crafted link.
right. Right. So like, no, this isn't the plugin at all.
If you type sex, a warning will be shown.
Yes. Oh, this is a cool one. Yeah. This is a validation one, right? Oops. Do not
type sex.
This is written by somebody not in this country. Didn't know what would be appropriate example. So instead of using like a word like just any word, let's use something semi-inappropriate. But there's a lot of plugins out there that this one actually doesn't. This one relies on key presses, which obviously you have. But there's a lot of plugins out there that. Oh, that's cool. Let's go back to this. There's a lot of plugins out there that actually rely on, and a lot of code that relies on hover. There is no hover. You're not right. You don't. There's no concept of hover on your iPad. You can't. You don't have a mouse. There's nothing to drag over and show that there's focus.
The same argument about Flash on the iDevices was there's no hover over a Flash. You can't have it appear.
Well, Flash had their own problem with it because you couldn't. There was no hover event to initialize Flash. Yeah, Flash had their own problem with that. So there's a lot of differences that you have to take into account, and there's got to be smooth ways to do it. Sencha is not jQuery actually. It's a different. There's a different library being utilized in Sencha, but it's there's a focus on mobile there. Certainly jQuery is focused on mobile right now and making sure that it works across all of devices. So again, you can create one website that works on an iPad and works on this machine and works on a Linux box using any number of browsers. So dealing with all those permutations and making sure everything works is kind of
considering how many
the big deal.
Browsers are in the Linux space, because I only like my own. I don't like to use that other one.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a feat. At least most of them are using WebKit. Isn't Firefox switching to WebKit? No.
Oh, they're going down their own path, I think, indefinitely at this point.
Oh, it was Epiphany that switched from the Gecko engine to the WebKit engine.
What would you say the most popular Linux browser is right now?
Firefox, just because it comes in all the distributions.
Fire-
Unless it was Debian.
A lot of stuff too, though. What is
They were going to
C1?
change the name of Firefox because of the way that the terms of the license of the use of the logo and the names were. So they were going to Debian couldn't use Mozilla Firefox, so they called it something else.
Bunfire.
And from Mozilla's standpoint, you got to follow our rules, but it's like, wait a minute, we're not having our branding out there. So they changed their licensing rules, and Debian put it back in. So it's one of those odd things.
Everyone's got to have the political war going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you heard about the one from last week at the Guadec conference for GNOME. Well, they put out a great big chart, and they said, here's all the commits to GNOME. Red Hat, 16%. Blah, 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 blah. Canonical, 1%. That cited a big firestorm. What he didn't say was that it was a cumulative. There are people on the list who haven't submitted something for 5 years.
Yeah.
So 16% is probably over the last 5-6 years.
Oh.
So Canonical, being a younger company, doesn't have as many commits. But they put all their stuff in Launchpad as their development environment. So big thing is we want the developers in Ubuntu to please release all of their patches and things to upstream so that the main projects have all the changes. They're getting better, but they're still kind of holding on to some of the custom stuff, unfortunately.
Oh, politics.
Yeah, that's as Mark Shuttleworth described it, everyone's being tribal. Let's stop being tribal.
Everyone take your loincloth off and just
chill.
Okay, no, let's not. Loincloths on. Let's be real friendly. So before we take off, I'd just like to go around and just get introductions from everybody, since I think I'm new to everyone in the room.
Okay.
Just name and what you do, high level. Good enough.
Awesome. Well, I'm John Larson. I'm a systems engineer for the AIM Institute. I've had various jobs throughout my life doing two-way radio communication, working in a comic book shop.
Nice.
Jonathan?
John Mohar, tech facilitator, Miller Public Schools.
Nice.
Craig Wolf, jack of all trades, Miller Public Schools currently.
I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah, we're gonna talk tonight.
Currently.
Okay.
For the next 5 hours.
Chad Holman, System Integration Engineer down north of Bremen.
Okay.
Bob Bowen, I'm a physician, I write software for my office.
Wow.
Really?
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh, not really. I run into a stumbling block, as I told you before,
Sure.
so I'm having trouble, so I'm keen for help.
Wow. Wonderful.
Bob Dunn, I do security over at Mutual for the time being. It's not fun, let me tell you.
I'm Dallas Krasinski, I live in Lincoln, I brought it up here, I'm this, what the hell, I'm in Village, Indiana.
Damn near grit. Yeah.
He's a recovering smart car driver.
Oh, yeah, advised, do not buy a smart car.
I'm
You're not smart?
I consider myself advised then.
Do not buy a smart car. I hate it, I don't have it.
You found some other sucker to buy your smart car?
That's funny.
Sweet.
Well, for you guys, most of the system integrators, then you don't have to worry about JavaScript and jQuery because it doesn't anything there.
Well, that's true, but there are times where, in my situation, where I have discussions with people, and sometimes you can see the light bulb turn on. Even though it might not be totally related, it may have some way of, the logic may push them in that direction.
We worked on stuff at home too. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I mean, if you ever get interested in web development, I mean, this is a great place to start for creating rich UI applications. I mean, Flash, it's like if you go the Flash route, that's fine, but it's not right. Already, the iPhone battle has, for better or worse, hurt Adobe probably more than anything. You just can't. Yeah, it's creating sites with jQuery. They're going to work everywhere, everywhere. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks
Yay!
Thank you.
for a little look at it.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Let me ask
Yo.
about the shoes. What are those called?
The shoes? These are Vibram 5 fingers. They are.
Oh, I've seen those.
They are.
Where are you?
As
do you get a
they-
special order or? what?
They have them in backwoods now. Used to have to special order them, and
It's
obviously.
the only place in town still.
Shields, I think maybe one
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I think they get it. I think they run out of them pretty quick. They're pretty popular now. But yeah, they're awesome.
They on Amazon, I'm assuming.
They are not. I don't think.
Really?
They have they can't manufacture them fast enough right now. So they have
So I saw
local
somebody
they have
in
local
California.
places and Vibram.com because they basically only sell them at retail price because
Eat them up.
people are gonna buy them at $85 or $80 or whatever they were, one of those two. You know, it's like, well, let's just keep selling them.
A lot
Okay.
better than Crocs.
I gotta ask, how the hell are they comfortable?
Oh, they look great.
They're
They just
wonderful.
look
Oh, they
absolutely
look great.
They're
I'm sorry, they
wonderful.
look just cool.
They-
but
No, I think there's a lot of foot damage from people wearing hard shoes.
Mhm.
And if you can get some flexibility in your foot, and particularly on your toes, I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, I have some nerve problems in between my middle toe and the toe next to it.
Compression of your digital nerve along the
Mhm.
dorsal aspect of your
Yep.
foot. Yeah.
Compression
See, now, we
on
don't
nerve.
usually hear that.
See, this is
Wow.
good. I'm learning stuff.
That's
So
cool. That's
these
very
shoes,
cool.
because of the flexibility, I think they're providing my feet. None of that pain is there. None of the burning sensation. I put my foot in a shoe for 6 hours,
there's a new book, or there's a book out called Board and the Run. If you haven't read it, you gotta
Yep.
read it. It tells you all you need to know.
Wow, cool.
Yes, there's a large movement. Yeah, where these shoes are really blowing up is in the running community.
I guess I
People
would
run.
think that
People
would
run
be harder.
marathons on hard surfaces in these shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Bunions. I mean, how many women have you seen walking around in pointed shoes?
Yeah.
I mean, that's hell on your feet.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
These aren't much better, a little bit. They're not very good looking either.
They definitely
These
don't
are
get the looks
wonderful.
those do.
No, those are cool.
They're wonderfully comfortable. The toes were sore the first couple days simply because they were moving. The pinky toe was so mad at me the first week. What is this?
Did you get blisters at all? Was you adapted?
None.
That's
Because they don't. I mean, there really is no. I mean, there's not really any of that movement going on.
Has
Shoes.
anybody ever said anything about needing shoes to be in here, or?
Yeah, I've thought about that a couple times. Like, but if flip flops count, these have a lot more coverage than flip
It's just
flops
having a
do.
big body pain.
Well, look how many
I paint
people
these
wear
on in the morning.
Birkenstocks. I mean,
Right.
so
Well, if you're old enough, you remember Earth shoes, which is probably the first development of that.
Earth
And I wore
shoes?
those for a long time.
I'm not
They
old
were the
enough.
first shoe that with a negative sole, little drop in the heel,
Huh.
and very wide in the toe box, and the idea was it was supposed to give you the feeling of walking on the beach with your heel sinking into the sand. It was supposed to give your calf muscles a little stretch and your toes room to compensate for that little bit of stretch. They were real popular in the early and mid '70s. They're
Interesting.
still out there, but they don't sell anywhere near the volume they used to.
they gotta iterate.
They just
Well,
need
the
to
Earth
advertise on
doesn't change
Amazon.
fast enough, is the
Yeah.
problem.
So I updated my phone to 2.2.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
It actually says tethering in the network menu, and when you cook it up, Network Manager in Linux saw it and connected it right away. I didn't have to do anything. I plugged it in and it was done. And it took me to a page from the Verizon website and said, if you would like this, it is $20 a month. Please call. Well, you know there's Proxoid and PDA Net that'll get around that. Whether they've disabled those, I don't know. But it
We
was
use a
pretty
PDA
easy.
Net.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be using that when we go to Florida next month,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not paying, it's where we're at, I can't pay for internet at the condo. I can't pay at our timeshare for internet, they don't provide
have
it.
it.
They don't provide it.
Is it a resort condo or is it? I'm surprised they don't.
I don't know,
That
but
doesn't
when I
make
figured
sense.
out that I could do it with this, or now that I
Oh,
can
that's why you're
get
getting
one.
that.
Oh,
The
this?
long haul wireless.
Well, maybe I'll hit the Denny's that's up the street, or Walmart.
Who says Walmart has free internet?
Work with me. They will when I walk in and set up that router and plug it in. Don't advertise and then just set the Wi-Fi.
Okay, if you want to check on your phone, okay, there is a manual check-in method. So go to the phone dialer,
Yeah.
*##, and then type in check-in. See, so 2,
So were you're
4,
using GTK?
GTK plus.
3.
Okay.
2432546.
I could sure use some help.
Right?
And the issue is Unicode characters
So
specifically.
I want to be able to
Mhm.
size them. There's
And
got to be,
then-
there's got, you know,
###.
with Adobe script, you know, you can query.
So it's
you know,
reversed in the last
the
two.
size of the
Yeah.
character,
And
you
it'll
can multiply
disappear
by-
and it'll
multiply
check
by,
the
you know,
server
the
to see if
size
there's
of the
anything
font.
new to download.
Right.
And you get proportions down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it seems like.
See, my problem is my code is getting old, and it won't run anymore because I haven't kept up with the newest developments. Now I need to switch everything over,
Did it disappear?
Check-in, read error.
either
I must
Excuse
have
me.
typed it wrong.
stay in Motive
Right.
or switch to something, you know. GDK I think is there a better language to program it for Linux?
Should be home doing.
Yes.
I hate Microsoft because it's so damn expensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean the prices just to
Well,
exist.
and it just seems silly. What's better than GDK?
Leave the room to go sleep somewhere else, so I next door to make sure she doesn't
GT Plus is pretty good. I thought always for
GT
just
what?
GTK Plus is
well, that's what I've been using.
Yeah,
I've been
that's-
switching over to.
I mean,
But-
Unicode.
But you see and there's a book out on it. Am I on camera or something? There's a book on it, but it doesn't get into anything other than just kind of the standard widgets. And they have lots of text widgets, but I have to be able to write onto a page, onto a canvas. I need to be able to write where I want to write it, how I want to write it. Put it where I want to, have complete flexibility in where I put it on my canvas.
Right. So Unicode as a technology is you were dealing previously, I'm sure, with ASCII, which is just
Yes, yeah.
and so Unicode as a technology should have a similar effect. It's just a
Well, at first, the first 128 characters are the same as ASCII anyway. But but my problem is, how do you get that query for that information? I didn't bring my code, but with Motif I could query and say, okay, with this font, what's the length of this character? So then I can put it on the page. Then I know when to put my next character, next character. Does that make sense? Because I know the length of the characters, but I can't figure out how to do that with Unicode. Obviously it's going to be done. I just don't know how to do it. I bought books on it, but I'm just getting lost in it.
So it may be more of a problem of the type of font that you're using, more so than, because Unicode itself is just describing the data in terms of what the data is, not
Yep.
how it looks, right? So
Well, I may be wrong on this, but my understanding is that Unicode, it's like,
No, dude, I'm thinking belt buckle.
thousands of different fonts. They all got their little space they can find it in. But the first 128 characters is ASCII. But then, you can go, there's
So,
a
like, if you're
space
in the
that's left
settings,
for Dunhill or something like that, there's a space left for something, and you can, it's so big, you can grab stuff, and it was designed, I think, for, Russian and Greek.
right, oh yeah, and all the Chinese, all the Oriental characters.
Yes,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
But I'm just kind of hung up on, how do I get information about it? I can,
But you get a little blue round
I'm just
icon.
lost. And my problem is, I don't know anybody who programs. I'm kind of self-taught, everything I know I learned by reading books, and now the books are becoming harder to find. GDK Plus is the only book I can find on GDK programming that's any good. That uses 2.0 plus, the 2.2 or something like that.
Right.
Anything else was pre that. My problem was, the stuff I was writing in GDK 1 or something like that. And when they switched to 2, I think they added Unicode to it.
Right.
And so all my code
No, I haven't done that.
compiles, but it crashes the program when I run it.
Yes.
It doesn't even draw anything on the screen, it just completely.
I get a flash, and it's
I don't remember which apps do. Although, the market
so I can't
did change,
recompile my
Greg.
code. I don't get errors.
Yeah, it's all runtime behavior.
But when I look in the GDK Plus under the online help or whatever,
Yep.
a lot of the stuff I'm running says depreciate. Don't use this code anymore. So it's time to rewrite all my code. But I'm just having a really hard time figuring out where to go from here. So I was hoping maybe you guys would have some help here. Or at least tell me where I can go.
Yeah, you'll be able to
Right.
install.
Yeah, it's fortunately it sounds like most of the guys that came here today were all system admins, jack of all trades guys.
Yeah.
And
There's
not
got to
the
be programmers out there
hardcore.
that have done this.
There
If
is.
you look at their text widgets, somebody had to deal with that problem with their text widgets. So it's, it's obviously it's doable.
Somebody's
Eventually
done
these
it
are all
right.
updates because it's 2.2.
It's not certainly
Last
being
FM updated Saturday.
But to get to this JQuery stuff, my business
So
is
some of the
laboratory.
testers must have gotten it.
And half my business is pickup, the other half of my business is information delivery.
Just try it out.
Whoever has the pizzazziest, sharpest information system is going to win. There's just no question. And our code is still running on old stuff, and it just has no pizzazz. You can't do anything with it. But some of the programs I've written incorporate fuzzy logic and neural networks and stuff like that. If I could get that out there, I think it'll help my business a lot.
Today, so for those people, how do they currently access that information today? What mechanism?
I sent it out. We have a web browser that you can log into, and you can say, give me, information on patient X, Y, Z. And you can get information off of it, or you can order a laboratory test over it. But it's not. I mean, it's really crude.
So here's the nice thing.
Well, you have a different launcher.
So what you've got
Yeah,
is
I'm running.
That sounds great.
Launcher Pro. You remember how to do the manual?
I think I could figure that out.
Well, I got the.
So
Oh,
what
okay.
you have right now is you've got something on the server. We're just going to call this code here, and it doesn't even matter what's doing this. What this code is doing is producing, which is being sent on the client side.
Yeah.
So
And then there's a special
jQuery operates entirely in this realm.
Hold X.
Yeah.
All jQuery is on this side is a file. Your server doesn't
And then it-
care.
and then you press
In this
this,
HTML
and
file,
this.
there's a reference to jQuery. It says, okay,
It
I'll go
says
pick it up.
update
So
.zip
everything that
use the
happens is
D-pad
here.
to-
So what's nice is it does not matter how old this hack is
And it says
to use jQuery. All you have to do is include it as a file,
I'm okay.
and it's over here. And now I could say, so let's say your data's in the table.
You're gonna have to rename it because it's -1.
Which is a lot of times what these are, you know, it's probably just a static table. There's nothing there but a big giant static table, right? Is that, I don't know how it's being delivered. Is it just this table, or does it just look like a big
We
document?
don't
that's-
use it much for data delivery. Most of the time, what we do is we deliver. Are you familiar with HCL7? HCL7. We deliver HCL7 code directly to their server.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then
And then
they
they,
consume it
yeah,
through HTML7.
yeah, they get the HCL7
Thank you.
code, and then they
Okay.